In today's video, I will show you how to turn a pair of oversized jeans into a skirt. And together, I will walk you through each step. This is perfect for a thrift flip or for upcycling a pair of old jeans or pants. So to start, let's go through the materials that you will need. You will first need a pair of oversized jeans. For me, this is a pair of jeans that my boyfriend wasn't going to wear anymore. You will also need a jeans sewing needle, and this is a needle that is a lot thicker and can handle going through multiple layers of denim. You also have to make sure that your sewing machine is actually strong enough to go through denim and to go through multiple layers of denim because we don't want to break your machine. You will also need matching thread. Usually jeans are made with this orange-brown thread. I did not have a thread that matched enough in the color, so I decided to go for a light blue. And now we can start with cutting the jeans. So lay them flat out on the floor, and I will use a skirt I already have to figure out an approximate length. So I'm just drawing a line with my washable marker and making this a little bit longer because I can always cut it shorter later. And then folding it in half to make sure that both sides are the same length. You should also consider the amount you cut off depending on if you want a raw hem or if you want to hem the bottom of the skirt. For this project, I decided to do a raw hem. So let's start by adjusting the front and the back. I will first seam rip the middle of the pants. If you want to make a pair of shorts, you can also skip this step and go directly to the adjusting the waist step. And you can even use this step for adjusting your regular jeans. So we are going to start by adjusting the back. And there's a few different options here. You can either just sew it down directly like this. For me, I'm going to basically mimic the type of seam that is already there and the type of seam that is typical for jeans. You can see here there's a small hole in the pants, which is why they were going to be thrown out, and I decided to make them into a skirt. So that's how this video started. You can also just use this tutorial and skip to where we adjust the waist and make a pair of shorts. So we are doing a bit of a shortcut, and I'm using my washable marker to draw in where I want the new seam to go. Because we want to mimic this fold, I'm also drawing 2 centimeters from that line. And then I will cut at this 2 centimeter line. And then we will mimic this fold by ironing it. But if you don't mind a raw hem at the back, you can also just sew it in place like this. So I will take it to my iron. And then fold the back seam underneath the newly pressed seam. So a bit of a shortcut here, but this will give you no raw hems at the back. So it's pretty interesting to see the original color of the denim, which you can see in this very dark color on the inside of the seams. So that's why it's important that I want to keep the integrity of the seams, because they have taken to the wash from the original color of the denim fabric, which is this very dark blue. And I am just sewing on top of the original stitch line. And now I'm just pinning it in place again to make sure that the fabric stays underneath the fold, so we don't have any raw hems in the back. And then I will sew the second stitch of the original seam on the back. And so now the back is done, and later on we will adjust the length. But for now, we will continue with adjusting the front. So I will seam rip just a little bit up until the zipper, and because this has a bit of an angle to it, I will just move over the top fabric and pin it in place at the point where I think my fabric looks good. So I will pin this in place and put it through my sewing machine. And in the front here, we will end up with a very slight raw hem on the inside. And again, just sewing on top of the original stitch line. And a little tip to sew these very sharp corners: when I reach the end of the corner, I leave my sewing needle down, take my presser foot up, and then I just change the direction of the fabric, and then continue sewing. And I will just sew on top of all of the original stitch lines, and then the front is also finished. And we will adjust the length later on. And now we are getting ready to adjust the waist. So try the skirt on, and mark on the back how much you want to take it in. For me, mine will be taken in about 15 centimeters, or about 6 inches. So I will start by unpicking the belt loop. This project is also great for learning how to take in pants or jeans at the waist, because it can seem a bit scary to unpick the entire waist of a pair of pants that you really like. So this is a great way to practice and to feel a lot more confident in your abilities. And I will also take the tag off the back, because for me this is going to be in the way a bit, because I have to take these in at the waist about 15 centimeters. And now we're going to start seam ripping the back. I promise it is not as scary as it seems. Usually in jeans there is a thread that wraps around itself, so you can just easily pull it. I would advise to seam rip one side, so that when you start to pull this thread, you don't accidentally pull around the entire waist, because we will only unpick the back. So seam rip a bit on one side, and then try to find this thread on the other side that you can just pull easily. And I had to also take off another tag. Now that the bottom thread is undone, I will also seam rip the top thread. So now we have seam ripped the back of the waistband. I'm going to mark the inside of the middle of the waistband. And mark 7.5 centimeters from each side to have this be a total of 15 centimeters, which is the amount that I will be taking in at the waist. Then you can fold this in half and pin it in place. I'll put it through my sewing machine. And before you cut it off, you can try it on to make sure that it's not too tight. And now we have created a new waistband with a really nice seam that will later be hidden inside of the belt loop. For the next phase of adjusting the waist, there are a few different methods that you can use. I am using what's called the dart method because I don't want to mess up the integrity of my seams. So I'm starting by drawing a line in the middle of my pocket, going all the way up. on both sides. Then I want each side to be taken in 7.5 centimeters for a total of 15 centimeters. If it fits in your seams and for your garment, you can also take this from the back seam or the side seams. For me, I didn't want to take it from my back seam because I wanted the seam to remain intact. I also didn't want to take it from the sides because usually jeans have these metal hooks on the side that I would like to keep. Another thing to note is that if you're using this method just to take in your regular jeans an inch or two, then I would not go past the seam, but do a very small dart at the top. For me, because I had to take in these jeans quite a lot, I ended up expanding the dart all the way to the bottom of the pocket, which you'll see later in the video. An important thing to consider here, if your darts are as long as mine, is to line up the seam on the back. And then I'll put it through my sewing machine. And a good practice thing to do with darts is to not backstitch at the peak of the dart, but instead make knots. And then I will take it to my ironing board. And then here I realized that I would need to make my darts even longer. And you'll see later in the video that once I take off the pockets, I actually make the darts even longer, all the way down to the bottom of the pocket. So now it's super exciting. We get to reattach the waistband to the bottom of the skirt. So you can just put the fabric into the waistband and we will sew again on top of the original seam. Also be careful here with your sewing machine because some of these parts can be quite thick. So go through it a bit slowly and be careful to not break your needles. And then I will also re-sew the top seam of the waistband. Now I will be adjusting the pockets and the length. Because I had to take my jeans in quite a lot, my pockets are bulging out a bit. If yours aren't bulging out as much, then you don't need to adjust them, but I will for mine. So I will seam rip both of the pockets. And here you can also see even more of the original color of the denim, which is quite interesting. And then as I said earlier in the video, I ended up adjusting the darts to make them even longer because I felt like the back was bulging out a bit too much. Then I will take it to my ironing board. And now I can also re-sew the belt buckle. And again, be careful here because this area is quite thick. Then I will try it on and cut off however much I would like. I am leaving my skirt with a raw hem, but if you will be hemming your skirt, make sure to leave enough room to hem at the end. And you know, this is supposed to be a fun project, so add lace, add some embroidery, do what you think is fun, and that is the most important part. You can even take some time now to embroider the pockets, which is way easier now since they are not attached to the garment. For me, the sides also were bulging out a little bit, so I also slightly sewed in the sides. Then I reattached the pockets, and again just sewed on top of the original seam. And be careful here again because it can be a bit thick in the top corners. Then because I want a raw hem at the bottom, I also want to prevent fraying, because this denim fabric is very prone to fraying. So I added a long length zigzag stitch at the bottom. So we get a little bit of fraying, but it will be a bit more controlled. Then I will give my skirt a final press, and it is done. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I will see you in the next one.